you look around the league, there's a lot of teams, in the hunt. We're in the hunt. You sit here and you say, hey, Thanksgiving and close to the end of November, and we're in the hunt. When you sit around that table tomorrow, you're saying we're in the hunt. And there's a lot of teams that wish they were in the hunt. But we're in the hunt.
I am going to be very upset if in the next 20 minutes I don't feel good about the upcoming season with the 13-win team that everyone says sucks, even though they didn't really lose anything. And Von Miller's coming back, and it's just Dan Fetes is our guest on the podcast. Kyle Turner and Sean Murphy are here too. They don't matter. Dan, talk to me. Tell me why I should feel good about feeling good about the Bills.
Josh Allen, can we start there? And Jordan Poyer coming back. I think if we're talking about like recapping the offseason, I think we all thought that Jordan Poyer was gone. I thought we would all think he'd be in Miami or someplace state that had lower taxes. So this was, while you can't say like, oh, it's a big acquisition and like a big name coming back, it's a name that I was all but sure was gone. So the fact that Jordan Poyer comes back, I think solidifies this defense that will look different next year. There's no doubt about that. I'm not so bent out of shape about losing Tremaine Edmunds. I think the Bills had kind of made their mind up last year when they didn't extend him and didn't give him a new contract. It was kind of the writing on the wall. I had joked around about going into that training camp. I said, the Bills made up their mind. They don't want him back. If he plays great, that's good for the team. And they can then say he priced himself out. And if he played crappy, they could say, well, we're not going to bring him back now. So like it was a win-win for the Bills. However they got it, they got some good play out of him. But I think some people are looking at the loss of Tremaine Edmunds and looking at Tremaine Edmunds through these rose-colored sunglasses now after he's been gone. Like we went into the last training camp going, can he intercept the ball if it hits him in the face mask? And like, can he make plays? And it was, and then people said, Pro Bowler. Like, I'm over the Pro Bowl. Like, I'm over the Pro Bowl talk. So like, if you made the Pro Bowl, I don't care anymore. So I think they can fit in pieces around it.
I was a fourth alternate last year.
So was I. I turned it down though because I had to work. That was what my deal was. That was the thing.
Well, and I think that the Edmunds point is a good thing to start with because Kyle on our podcast, you're speaking his language. He's a noted Edmunds disliker.
Yeah, truther. That's what we like to be called.
Edmunds truther. How do you feel now that he's off the team? Were you doing cartwheels kind of last month? Or?
No, I came around to, especially last year, like Dan was saying, it made it easier to not call out how bad he was the first 4 years. You go, well, that's fine. I'll let the people have it. All the people that told me I was an idiot, and there's a lot that told me I was wrong about him. I go, sure, he's great this year. Perfect. But I think it is telling, like Dan was saying, that if the Bills wanted to make that work, they could have. They could have made that work, and they chose to not make it work. And I think that tells you all those years when people were like, when McDermott and Bean were like, he does so much for this defense. Well, then why didn't you make it work, man? They decided to look at the first 4 years, as I did, and decide he wasn't as good as he was this fifth year. And that's fine, and I wish him nothing but the best. He can still beat me in a foot race.
He's still young, though.
Yes. He is. He just graduated high school.
I can't wait for week 4 where Kyle's like, why don't we re-sign Edmunds? His defense sticks.
Because he can't rent a car.
My favorite thing about the he's still young thing is he is still young. He's 24. But that doesn't mean that 5 years in the NFL doesn't take its toll. It means he's going to retire earlier. That's all it means. It means
I sucked at football. I sucked at football when I was young.
Early retirement.
Yeah.
Well, I know, Dan, we're trying to make Greg feel better here, but here's I guess the $1 million question. Are the Bills, I know they still got a draft class to go, but right now, are they better than they were when the season ended? Because you lose Edmunds, you get Poyer back. The receivers, Sheffield and Hardy are probably overall better than McKenzie. I think Harris is probably better than Singletary. Like, are they better? Do you think they should have done more? Are you happy? Should I be happy?
this is an overarching thing, and it's what's frustrated me the most probably over these last 8 months is I just have major concerns and questions with Ken Dorsey. And if I want to put you guys into my doomsday scenario, it's that the Bills offense starts out slow. They fire Ken Dorsey and Aaron Kromer becomes the head offensive coordinator. Like, that is my nightmare scenario, is if that's what could possibly happen. I wish they would have moved on from Dorsey this offseason. The whole point of keeping Ken Dorsey was for continuity. And then all of a sudden, all we heard was, well, give him time. Give him time. He's a first-year offensive coordinator. You were supposed to be ahead of that. And you had the option of not having, you could have changed the continuity then, and you didn't, but you went with continuity over experience, and the lack of experience bit the Bills in the ass. And it was very telling when Stephon Diggs blows off the media at locker cleanout, and he blows us off after the loss to Cincinnati. And then he goes on the Super Bowl tour and says, that wasn't just for one game. Like, I wasn't freaking out because of one game or one play. I was freaking out because the last 9 weeks of the season, we weren't doing anything. And when you're a pitcher and they catch up to your fastball, you got to learn how to throw something different. So while all these pieces, I agree, Damian Harris, love the signing. I think that makes so much sense. And while I do think that Deontay Hardy is an upgrade from Isaiah McKenzie, and I do think that Trent Sherfield can do some things, it all comes back to the guy that's calling plays, and that's where I'm concerned.
Can he learn? Like,
I hope.
Year 2, that's big. Like,
Yeah.
he'll watch the games from last year and be like, oh, and I'm not trying to like simplify it. I do
No, yeah.
wonder if he's smart enough to get in the position he was. Some offensive coordinators don't learn. What do you think about Dorsey? Is he smart? Is that your impression of him? Is this a guy that can do better?
And I will say quickly to Greg's point, we here on our podcast, which of course everyone listens to, we always
watch
talk
a lot of film.
We watch a lot of film. We always talked about when McDermott started. I mean, he would punt from 4th and inches from the 1 yard line. Like, he was the most conservative coach since almost Duran, and he's gotten better. So there's hope.
Yeah. But my hope is to go back to that somewhat of that Brian Dable philosophy of don't take the ball out of 17's hands. And he's really good with it. And so my concern is that, to your point about, well, McDermott is, aggressive. I also feel like he just went on NFL Network at the owners meeting and said, we need Josh Allen to take less hits. It's not sustainable. And to that, I would say Josh Allen's gotten hurt twice, and they were from inside the pocket. Like, Josh Allen is a massive human being. And if you're going to take away his running ability or his scrambling playmaking ability, that's fine. And that's what they want. Like, for years, right? The last 2 years, the Bills want to run the ball more. I want to win Powerball. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. What are you doing to make that happen? So if you're going to take away Josh Allen and don't want him to run as much, fine. How do you make up those yards? I don't have that answer. Could Deontay Harris be part of that factor? Could a short passing game be it? They didn't have, it's crazy that we talked about this continuity that they brought over from Brian Dable leaving to Ken Dorsey, and they kept a lot of people in place, and they had no identity. And that's a little scary to me, that your identity was 3rd and 14, Josh, go be Superman. And that's not a sustainable identity.
Yeah. And the kind of interesting thing too is I'm almost more scared about Leslie Frazier leaving, because I feel like McDermott has gotten better since he's been here, but now giving him more to do scares me a little bit.
Absolutely. I that's what I've been doing the most. People talking to me today. What do you think about this? Look, Sean McDermott knows how to call plays defensively. It's how he earned this head coaching job. Like there's no question about that. It's, can he call plays, make adjustments in between series while also challenging plays and calling timeouts and also being in charge of the game, like in charge of coaching an entire team. So I think it makes the most sense. I didn't expect him to go out and bring in some DC that would call plays. I guess I just have a little bit of caution. And I think that's, to Greg's point, like wanting me to come on here and give you optimism. The scary thing is that for the first time, I think why people are so frustrated, and Bills fans are, is that for the first time in 4 or 5 years, there isn't this optimism that they ended the season with. Like, hey, we're going in the right direction. Even the even the first AFC championship loss or the AFC championship loss to the Chiefs, it was like, well, we'll be back and we'll be better. And then things have progressed and, oh, now we got this piece and now we got Von Miller. For the first time, I feel like people are like, we're stagnant. I'm not talking about championship window being over. I'm just talking about, is the future as bright as we thought it was at this time last year?
Well, we've been recording for 10 minutes. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't know. I don't know how you guys are doing.
I think that line had a lot to do with whether or not we should be optimistic, and that's kind of, I'm surprised that there wasn't more talk about how bad the offensive line looks. And I don't watch film. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Same.
But I'm
No
surprised
idea.
the experts and all the reports and, you, Buffalo Plus and WHAM and all the talking heads out there weren't just like, they have to fix this line. Because it was, every time something bad happened, I'd see the replay and I'd see a lineman just totally eating balls, like just that bad.
But they had a Pro Bowler, Roger Saffold. Like, I don't know what's like, what do you
Yeah.
It also
Just barely beat out Sean Murphy.
Yeah. It's also one of those things that, like, anytime on Twitter, you know how like random analysts or something will have that like some crazy stat or grading system for offensive lines that no one knows. And I will say this, every single one had Spencer Brown at like shouldn't play football level of like, not just like, oh, he's a backup that he's starting. It's like, no, this guy didn't play. He shouldn't be on the team level grading. But what made me nervous, and I've mentioned this, I feel like for 2 off seasons, is like Bean he likes to get those like average level guys, bring them here, pay them a low salary, and hope they outperform their contract. And I'm hoping this year with the Connor McGovern, I don't know anything about him. Everything I read is that he was really good in pass protection and pretty poor in run blocking, but whatever. I'm on team pass all day for sure. But like, it kind of feels like that of like Dallas didn't resign their starting guard for $7 million a year. And then it's like they bring over what's his name? David Edwards from the Rams, who started for the last like 3 seasons and in the Super Bowl, and they let him go for $4 million too on a team that's hurting for offensive line. Also, like, both those things just kind of like, all right,
Yeah.
Is he better than Saffold? Hopefully. Is he the answer? No.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I love that you provide that perspective of
Idiot.
No, the perspective that I
Negativity.
deal with a lot is, especially was the big one was Sherfield and Hardy and everybody going, the Bills got steals. Can you believe that we got these guys? These guys could be great with Josh Allen. And I sat there and I went, Sherfield's on his 4th team in 4 years. What did the other 3 teams miss? Like, this thought that like every single player your favorite team signs is going to be a star is not accurate, because like you're saying, the Rams are totally fine with letting this guy go. So it was, I always remember it was the guy they got from the Bengals that lasted. He was a center that lasted for like 2 years and they cut him, but they signed him and everybody's like, oh, this is a good signing. He started all these games for the Bengals. And you go and looked on Bengals like Twitter and they were celebrating. And it's like, that's not good. That's issues there.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. And this thought that it goes back to this, why I like the Damian Harris signing is that Sean McDermott has wanted to be this physical ground and pound running team. And it's like, great, then get big physical linemen that want to run the ball. And you don't have that. So you're trying to fit this square peg into a round hole. And I don't know where you want to point, whether you point the blame at Bean or McDermott for the philosophy and the product that you have and the talent that you have just don't mesh. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the draft they go find a guard. They could find a right tackle or something like that. And it won't be a sexy pick, but it'll be a pick, hopefully, that you really bring into your point. The Spencer Brown, they know he had the injury and all those things, but I was very annoyed by when Brandon Beane ended his press conference by being like, well, he didn't play that COVID year. And then, he went to UNI and he went to a small school. It's like, so you're making excuses for why you signed the guy that's not playing well, like, or drafted the guy that's not playing well. It's like, it wasn't like you just pulled the name out of a hat. Like, you picked this guy knowing he went to Northern Iowa and knowing that he was going to have these flaws. And now you're having these flaws and you're like, well, like, I don't get, like, so some of those things like bother me with what Bean has done a little bit to have the Bills in the situation they are.
I think with Spencer Brown, you watched a lot of the plays where he was just kind of used. And I thought it would have been better to get like a little 5'4", 14-year-old kid who had a lot of energy to just get caught up in the legs of the defensive end. Like, he ain't going to overpower anyone, but he'll trip and maybe give that extra 0.2 of a second that Brown cannot give Josh Hill.
Love it.
But, you know, there's age restrictions with signing players.
It's the age restriction. That's the problem.
Yeah, we like to think outside the box here.
Too. This is, yeah.
Well, let's talk about some of the rumors going around. I mean, Hopkins is the big one right now. Do you make anything of it? Do you think it will get done? Do you think it should get done?
All right. First things first, there is too much smoke for there not to be fire. And from the sources that I've talked to about 3 people, that the Bills are interested.
It's not us 3, is it?
No. Wouldn't that be great?
That does not count. That does not.
I was talking to In the Hunt podcast, and they were like, yeah, they're definitely in. And I was like, hang on, guys. I got to go on the news. I'll be right back. I got it. So it's the same guy that, same source that has told me the Bills were also interested in Zach Ertz. Remember, in like 2020, we were going into that offseason. I remember I kept checking in, and I kept checking in, and I kept checking in. And he kept going, they're interested. They're interested. But the Eagles are asking for too much, and the Bills aren't comfortable with it. And it's the same situation right now with Hopkins. The Bills are interested, but it has to be for the right price. We're now hearing the price is what Arizona wants is a 2nd and a 3rd round pick, which Jeremy Fowler is saying that teams are saying a deal won't get done unless they come down from that. That's a Christian McCaffrey-like trade package, again, for a 31-year-old wide receiver. So that's what I know. I can tell you they are interested, that they are in the mix for Hopkins. Should they do it? Absolutely. I really think that DeAndre Hopkins makes the Bills once again a Super Bowl contending odds team. Like they would be one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl again. Because I went into training camp last year and nobody wanted to hear it, but I said, we did a podcast on Buffalo Plus, and they said, what position are you most worried about? Offensive line or, corners, things like that. And I was worried about the wide receiver room. I just thought there was a lot of change, and it was putting a lot of people in positions they hadn't been in before. And it's a lot easier to be a pinch hitter than be an everyday startup guy, at a Major League Baseball team. And I look at this wide receiver room right now, and I think it's in the bottom 3rd of the NFL. And I also think that if you were to add DeAndre Hopkins, I think it takes them into top 3 to 5 wide receiver room. I really think that he's that much of a difference maker. I understand he's old. I understand that his best years are behind him, guys. But he caught over 700 yards last season in 9 games. And in 5 of those games, it was Trace McSorley and Colt McCoy. Mm-hmm. This guy can still ball out. And if that's the case, he would be the best wide receiver that Stephon Diggs has ever played with. And Stephon Diggs would be the best wide receiver that DeAndre Hopkins has ever played with. It would be a massive duo and a boost to this offense.
It would look awesome to have Hopkins and Diggs running routes right into each other because Ken Dorsey sucks. Sorry, it's a joke. It's a joke.
With his age thing, I've you've seen on Twitter a lot of people that are worried about it say he's older, he's 31. But from my very limited professional knowledge, people have brought up the Julio Jones trade of he was terrible in Tennessee and but Hopkins was never the biggest, strongest, fastest. He got open because he was savvy. Julio Jones was bigger, stronger, and faster than everybody. So his decline was more physical, whereas Hopkins has been used to getting open like Diggs, just through route running and technique. As far, it sounds good in my head, and then the words came out, and I think I'm correct.
I think you're spot on. He is that.
Don't tell him that. He's going to get all
fucking good.
Yeah, you are so smart. You should break down all 22 films daily. Because no, but he's a professional route runner. Like that's what it is. He still has, again, I also wonder too, I know he's been injured a little bit the last, 2 years, but he did have 7 games off or 8 games off because of PED suspension. So it's not like there was a ton of wear and tear on his tires the last, year. And I just think that you really need to have 3 wide receivers, right? Like in today's day and age of like passing in this NFL. And it would very much scare me if the 3 wide receivers were Diggs, Davis, and Sherfield, or Diggs, Davis, and Khalil Shakir. Like you just need another. Again, I went back to that. I remember when they signed Josh Allen to that $250 million deal. I go, I hope they don't go the Aaron Rodgers route, like what the Packers just gave him, shit after shit after shit, and they said, go make us chicken soup, and they said, go make all these things work. Now he did have, a good wide receiver and some pieces, but in general, they never replenished him. They never gave him the talent. It's one thing to say, hey, we need you because of your salary. You need to make some of the offensive line better. We need quicker passes, things like that. But also, hey, we've invested all this money. We should give him resources too to succeed. That would be kind of cool, right? Like, we have invested all this money. Let's give our guy playmakers. And the salary cap isn't real. So I don't care what DeAndre Hopkins' money is. Figure it out.
And well, you know what? You talked about being ahead of the curve with the wide receiver room last year. Let me give you one for this year. The quarterback room. Because as we all know, San Francisco being the biggest example, backup quarterbacks play now. Half the AFC had a backup quarterback in the playoffs last year. And we talked about this last year on the podcast. I want Josh Allen to be happy, but do we got to just sign all of his friends to be quarterbacks? Like, I get third quarterback, you could hire whoever you want. You could, his best friend from high school, that's fine. But like, is Kyle Allen going to be the backup? Like, it feels like it's playing with fire when all these other teams have like legit starters as backups now.
Yeah, I would have wanted his friend that was better at quarterback in Sam Darnold, because he's at least better than Kyle Allen. But yeah, he ended up getting his friend, and you're right, he's already got his friend in Barkley. Like he's got his buddy. So yeah, there definitely is. I didn't even think about quarterback room, and now you just like brought it up. And now it's like, this was supposed to make Greg happy.
So quarterback room is bad. Like, Kyle Allen's not going to win games for you. I always think that that's a position where when something happens, like let's say Josh Allen gets hurt and it's going to be like 6 weeks, that's when you start to look, okay, Kyle Allen's dog shit. He's making Josh happy, but let's stop messing around here. Let's go and get whatever free agent quarterback is just kind of sitting there waiting. So
that's not a
Ben
terrible thing.
Roethlisberger, whatever that would have been last year, maybe you grab that guy back.
Cam Newton, baby.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'd rather have that than Kyle Allen. Yeah. So
call Phillip Rivers up.
Yeah. Call Aaron Rodgers, because he's not going to sign with the Jets ever. So
yeah, can I ask you guys that thought? Like this thought that the Jets have all this leverage after he goes out there and says that he wants to play in New York. I see that completely opposite. Do you?
No, yeah, I think Green Bay has all the leverage because they have the player.
Because the player said, I'm going to play for the Jets. You have to make
but
that happen.
He's either going to hold out, in which case he pays them. He's going to retire, in which case they don't pay him, or he's going to play and then he's their quarterback. So they're in a win-win-win in my book.
And also, to your point, everyone's talking like Aaron Rodgers is a Jet, and I'm like, if any trade in the history of time could blow up, it would be this trade. I mean, Aaron 100%. Rodgers might listen to a podcast that says, New York is bad in the fall, and he just doesn't changes his mind. Like, there's anything could happen still.
Wait till he listens to the pod that says New York City is an actual hologram, and he's like, I can't get there, man. I'll fall through into the ocean. It's not a real city.
I guess I just look at this and I go, it'd be one thing if the Packers were wanting to win now, and I'm not saying they don't want to win, but like, they're going to full on rebuild. So like, they need pieces and assets. So like, it's kind of like what the Texans were with Deshaun Watson. You don't want to play? Fine. Don't really care. Like, you're under our contract. And the thought that they're going to give Aaron Rodgers away for 50 cents on the dollar because he wants to play somewhere, to me just feels idiotic. And for as bad as some front offices, like, they're not going to give him away for nothing. Like,
and Jets, they have his replacement. So it's
Exactly.
not like
They
they're going to
have the
go into the
replacement.
season with some, he might be bad, but they have the guy they want to see anyway. So it doesn't matter.
I agree. So I go, this is weird how this is going to shake out, because I would still be asking the Jets for everything, because the Jets are the one that are in limbo. They don't know what they're going to do with their quarterback situation. The Packers know what they're going to do. It's not Rodgers. It's going to be Jordan Love. They're moved on, but they have this ace up their sleeve as trade collateral.
How do you feel about the AFC East in general? Obviously, Miami got Jalen Ramsey. I mean, New England, I think, is the worst team. They got Juju and Gesicki, but like Dolphins also Vic Fangio as DC. Yeah. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets, he makes them significantly better. 100%. If that does happen.
My big fear would be if Lamar goes to the Jets, because I think that could terrorize the AFC East for 5 years and not Rodgers for 2. I think the Patriots will be better because they actually have an offensive coach calling offensive plays, which is a big step up for them. I think that can't be any worse than what the experiment they had last year. So the Dolphins are still kind of that in between phase on. I really do like Mike McDaniel. I think he's a smart offensive minded guy. But I think this division is getting closer. But the thought is too, for everybody that likes gambling out there and betting on the Bills, the way that I see all this, I still think the Bills are heads and shoulders above everybody else in the division. I think you get them at a better price now. I think before you were getting them at a lot worse odds. I think you're getting them at better odds now, because there's going to be a ton of money coming in for the Jets. There's going to be a ton of money coming in for the Dolphins with Jalen Ramsey, and you can get the Bills at a better rate. And I still think they're going to win that division.
Boy, 15 seconds left with Dan, and he did it. He wrapped it up and said nice things. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it, guys.
Check him out on WHAM and Buffalo Plus. Find him on the social medias, FETES. That's how you spell Fetes. And,
thanks for joining us and making us feel kind of good. I think we've talked about some criticisms.
I feel good because he
said
confirmed everything that I said. And I think you guys need to respect me more.
Yeah. Well, I got a couple things I want to
get off your chest
before we
Greg,
go.
You suck.
I kind of do respect you more than I should, Kyle. Like, I respect your football takes. If I say something you disagree with, I'll think about what I just said. It's like, oh, Kyle thinks I'm serious. I do. And I shouldn't.
Sean, do you? When it comes to football.
Yeah, I guess I kind of begrudgingly respect you. I've been giving you a lot of olive branches.
I know. Dude, I'm a whole tree. Are you kidding me? I'm going to start an olive oil ranch.
You're going to start an Olive Garden.
I'll go to an Olive Garden. Should that be a Patreon? Greg and Kyle go to Olive Garden.
Greg and Kyle.
I'll go to an Olive Garden.
Yeah.
When they're
Whoever
there, they're
eats
family.
more breadsticks.
Yeah.
Some other stuff we didn't get a chance to talk about with Dan. Other rumors, I don't know if you've seen this a lot on Twitter. I don't think this is legitimate, but a lot of people talking about wanting to trade Ed Oliver, which would of course make Greg angry because he bought the jersey. It's one of the only jerseys he's got.
Well, you never buy a jersey of a current player, Greg.
Yeah. Am I
always
wrong?
going to disappoint you.
He would be a former player, so that would still.
And then Ed Oliver had some angry Instagram stories about not being respected.
I don't know if they were angry. He was just athletes. We have to remember with athletes is most of them are legitimate children. He's like 25, right?
Yeah.
That's a child.
Mm-hmm.
So like we can't act surprised when a child acts childish.
When Kyle was that age, he was posting Creed lyrics on his AIM away message. Guys, I'm still here. I'm with arms wide open if you want to hang out tonight.
I'm just saying, they act childish. They are a child. Just because they're millionaires and we watch them on TV, we can't think they're like fully functioning adults.
Yeah, and I'll say
they played football 16 hours a day their entire lives.
Yeah, their brain.
Well, they just haven't had a lot of life experience. Unlike you, who travel the world defending our country.
I don't think I think that would be a dumb idea. Why make a new roster hole when you don't have to? Mm-hmm. Obviously, you would trade him for something. But still, it seems.
I like Ed Oliver. I've said before, it seems like he didn't take the jump we all were expecting and wanted, obviously. If it's Ed Oliver for a pick, I think I'm a little upset, unless that pick is like ridiculous. Um, if it's Ed Oliver for another starter, so it kind of fills a hole, but creates a hole, but you have one filled, I'm more okay with it.
If it's Ed Oliver,
If they trade Ed Oliver for a starting caliber middle linebacker, I'm okay because now we filled one hole. Now we just have to draft that other. And if they think they got better through that, I'm fine. But if it's like Ed Oliver for like pick 26, I'm gonna be a little like, well,
Yeah.
now we need to draft a defensive tackle.
What
yeah,
now?
well, that would get you like if you're replacing him, you get pick 26 and you're replacing him with a defensive lineman that is good at
Yeah, but
that
that's what I'm
slot,
saying.
then
You
you're
don't
getting
know
cost.
who's
Yeah.
falling to 26.
I will take Oliver for DeAndre Hopkins and whatever pick you also want to give them in return. Like I
And a
do not
pick. They
want
would have to
I
give
don't
me a
want
pick.
I don't want Ed Oliver to be traded. I don't know about that. That's interesting. Whatever. I don't want him to be traded. I would take him being traded for DeAndre Hopkins, and that's it.
No.
Yeah.
Did either of you have interest in this? Was this another kind of baseless rumor? I mean, obviously Ezekiel Elliott was cut, and then there was also rumors Derrick Henry might be traded. Either of those have interest to you as a?
I would have been
big name
interested
running
in Derrick Henry, kind of, because it would have just been super fun. But no, I don't want them to spend a dime or an
I
asset on
would have.
running back.
I agree with Greg.
Me
The
too.
idea of Derrick Henry was fun because I just like when the Bills are in the headlines.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that would have been like everyone would. I don't think it would have made the Bills better, but I do think the idea of everyone being like, holy shit, Derrick Henry's on the
Yeah.
Bills. Who's going to stop him? And somebody would. Somebody would have for sure stopped us. But like that idea of like people being like, what? Well, there's nothing you can do now. They have Derrick
Yeah, I would have been
Henry.
excited for 30 seconds, and then I would have thought about how Jerron
Yeah.
now has Derrick Henry and
Yeah.
he's going to run him 3 downs.
Don't call McDermott
yeah.
Duran. That's a slip of the tongue.
Oh, wow.
That,
I did say Jerron. I meant,
that's
McDermott.
Freudian slip. Is that
Freudian
what that's
slip.
called?
Dick McDermott.
Some smaller
Dick
news.
McDermott is so much better.
Dick McDermott.
Dick McDermott.
Dickie
Oh,
D.
boy.
When he starts putting again, you gotta call him.
Dickie
Break that out on the
what
Twitter.
are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Some smaller news to run through. Milano got a 2-year extension, which could be, he's getting up there too. A lot of injuries. Who knows about that?
You ever seen Rocky? Those Italians are good forever. He's going to be playing into his 40s.
I don't know. Not good personalities.
If he can play football, he can be whatever he wants. And by the way, he seems very nice.
He does seem nice.
I don't want to let that sit there. I was agreeing with you.
Yeah, you only want to agree with Kyle on some things.
Yeah.
Hines reworked his contract, so he should still be on the team this year. They brought back the punter, Sam Martin. They brought back Ike Bodiger, which is big because Kyle usually calls him Buttigieg. So hopefully he gets back in there. We get another slip of the tongue. Speaking of those, Tyler Matkevich is back because we need those core special teams players still.
Gingers.
You need them.
I thought you were going to say gingers.
It was funny that the first like 2 or 3 moves they made on the offseason were like, teams are doing this and teams are doing that. And I can't remember what was happening in free agency, but it was like, oh, that's super exciting. And the Bills were like, hey, guys, don't worry. Tyler McCavich is back. And got our punter locked up too. And then they just disappeared for a week.
I can't believe Adam Schefter even like tweeted that out.
Yeah.
But
even he should be like, who cares?
And Tommy Sweeney and Crowder went to the Giants. The Giants are becoming what the Panthers were to us.
Yeah, Bills Jr.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the Sherfield for a second.
Yeah.
My favorite thing, and Dan touched on this, is so the Bills signed Trent Sherfield. It's a 1-year, $1.7 million, I believe. I don't know anything about guaranteed money, but I know it's 1.7. And obviously, naturally, GR brings on some former beat reporters that covered the teams he was on to talk about him. And I remembered how much I hate that, because every beat reporter would come on and none of them are like, guys, he's dog shit. Like everyone was like, he was misused, and when they were using him right, he actually was the best wide receiver in the NFL. And if you actually look at routes between 2 and 1/2 yards, he's the best, cleanest, whatever. And you're like, and it every time it would get me pumped up in my head. And as soon as the guy got off, I'd feel like I'm fucking cut myself. And I'm like, no, don't fall for that shit. The dude's not going to make the team. If they draft 2 wide receivers, if they draft, or if they trade for Hopkins and draft a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds, there's a good chance that guy's not on the team. And I'm letting some beat reporter I've never fucking heard of get me pumped for Trent Sherfield.
I could see when Isaiah McKenzie signs somewhere else and Dan Fetes has to go on and talk about, if he signs with Baltimore, and he has to go on Baltimore radio and talk about McKenzie.
I think he signed.
Yeah,
with
he
the
was.
Colts.
Oh, did he sign with the Colts? So
Yeah,
wherever he goes on Indy, and it's like, yeah, he was pretty good. He dropped some balls, that's what should be said about. There's obviously warts on this man, or else he would not have been available to come to the Bills at a contract like that.
I wanted to ask Dan, and I forgot.
We'll email him.
Yeah, we'll role play. I'll pretend I'm Dan.
Isaiah McKenzie, short, fast. Deontay Hardy, short, fast. I just want to know. Now, I think he's faster, but I would like to know, like, what Hardy actually does much better than McKenzie. And it's something. Hardy signed here for $4.5 million. I think it was a 2-year, $9 million deal or something. I don't think so. He's been in the league for a while. Either way, I just want to know, like, what makes him better? Or is he that much faster? Is he a better route runner?
Well, he
is 25 years old, so he's going to turn 26 before the season.
Well,
and McKenzie's going to be like 27 or 28.
As we talked about earlier, what makes him better is he's a Bill now. So,
oh yes,
it
is true. Better. I am more excited. Obviously, I think everyone is. Hardy. I am more excited for Hardy than Sherfield. If Sherfield got cut, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Speaking of McKenzie, I do want to pour one out for McKenzie, who had, in my mind, the best Bills player tweet of all time. When he tweeted that he wanted Cole Beasley back, someone replied, Cole Beasley is an anti-vax loser. And Isaiah said, yeah, but he's our anti-vax loser. and
I didn't know that. Or I forgot about it.
That's a Bills wall of, put him on the wall of fame.
That's tremendous.
He was funny-ish, right? He was athlete funny.
I want to.
That's it, right?
We're gonna do a question. We're gonna do. It'll be a short one. We'll do a short little question game. Before we do the question game, we have our David Sumner, our Joe B.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah. He says my all-time favorite Bills free agent is Bryce Pop, won NFL Defensive Player of the Year and was first team All-Pro. And speaking of Greg's jersey, that's my jersey. I have a Bryce Pop jersey. Some say the coolest jersey.
That was an exciting signing. That was the Von Miller of its time. Like, that was super.
He was that big around the league?
Maybe like not as big as Von Miller. He was super dominant, though. And I think he had like 19 sacks or something like when he came here. So that was fun.
And with that blurb from David, he bids us adieu, which means the Joe B tier is wide open. You want to be our Joe B?
Yeah. Unlike McKenzie.
How do you log in? You gotta do it.
Sign up, be our Joe B. Because you know what? The next episode is the draft preview with Joe B. So you could read a blurb. You could say something to Joe B as our Joe B.
Hypothetically, your blurb could be a question, and then he would have to answer your question.
That's true.
Are you willing to pay us $18,000 a year to ask Joe B one question? That's all the Joe B tier.
So go to the Patreon, sign up for the Joe B. You get a lot of other goodies with that if you haven't got them already. And
or just do the $1 one.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
We'll take anything. Sign up for that Patreon.
Did David? Never mind. Sorry.
We're currently doing all of March and April, all the old episodes from the 2017 season that we found. A lot of fun stuff going on at the Patreon. It's cooking, as the kids say.
Thank you for holding the title, David.
Yes, David. Yeah. Thank you.
You're dead to me, but
he would expect.
He's probably not even listening anymore. So,
and you know what? If you're our Patreon, we met up with Thomas. You know, maybe we'll get a beer. If you're,
we tried to do like an in the hunt meet for a comedy show, but because it involved us doing comedy, that didn't go over well. That was not. There was.
We had some people come out to that show. There
was one or two. There's some people at a bus stop.
There's nothing wrong with bus people.
No, but there ain't a crowd there.
No, definitely not Joe Beat to your crowd.
No, not at all.
Well, our question game. This is short and sweet, Greg. You'll like this. It's everyone's favorite game. Jersey on the line. Case Keenum.
No,
with the Texans now.
Is it a Texans jersey?
No, it's a Bills jersey, of course.
All right.
Of course, Greg.
I don't own a Texans jersey.
You're going to go back and forth, starting with Greg. Bills whose last name starts with an R.
R. I thought you were going to say K because it was Case Keenum.
But I think we've already done K. So we're going R. Last name starts with an R.
Okay, so I just had it. I will go with Andre Reed. He was a Hall of Famer. I had an obscure one, but I might get Kyle like right away. Like this might be one and done. So I was going for the kill by taking away the most famous R in Bills history. So
I wouldn't even have got him with my first pick, guaranteed.
Okay.
I will go the other Reed. I'll go Josh Reed, Hall of Famer.
Smart.
Somewhere. Some high school.
Hall of Famer somewhere.
All right. This last name starts with R, but the letters, the words before it do not. Shake, rattle, and Butch Roll.
Yes.
Former tight end.
Oh my God.
Butch, shake, rattle, and roll.
Well done.
This might be a short game.
I already got one loaded, Kyle.
We get hints in this game? We get one hint, right? Can I
you get a couple hints. I go down, I give some hints. So you got one current Bill. Let's see, we got a quarterback. We have a good couple people from the drought era.
That's 20 years long.
That's
true. There's gotta be some.
There's two people from that 20-year gap.
Only two players for 20 years of the last name are. I've got four names written down, Kyle.
Yeah. I mean, I might as well throw in the towel. I literally, if you have four names, I can't think of one. Greg, give me a hint.
He just gave you the hint. One's a quarterback.
One's currently on the roster.
Who's currently on the roster? Who's the one currently on the roster? It is
kind of a big one too.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Did we just sign him maybe?
Nope.
Shit.
Ed Reed does not count. He was
although technically there is someone we just signed as well.
I don't know the name.
I hate this.
Kyle, there's someone we just signed today.
You can say Matakevich because he's special team, so he can go anywhere. He can be an R.
He can be an R.
Rap. Tyler Rapp?
Yep. Good job.
Oh
Stay
my
alive.
God. Thank God I read that tweet.
Right. From the University of Michigan, Jay Miersma.
Good job.
Oh, Naaman Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Wow, well done. Are you texting him answers?
No, I was going to joke and say Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh, okay.
And then I was just like,
Roosevelt?
there was a Roosevelt.
I wanted him to be really good, and he wasn't. He didn't.
I played against him in high school.
Wow.
And he didn't take that experience and launch it into a Hall of Fame career.
No, he's all
Frank Reich.
Yep,
Frank Reich still coaching in the
league.
Well done.
Stupid.
Got some offensive linemen, if that helps you at all. Some obscure.
I don't even know who the guards are right now.
That's true.
Or were.
They just signed, I think, so yeah.
Andy Levitri, that's an L.
There's
Ruben
another.
Brown
This might be too big of a
high.
hint. I don't know. There's another tight end.
Yeah. I have him ready. So if you steal my tight end, I'm out. This could be the game changer, Kyle. Steal the tight end and I'm done.
Although the clock is ticking.
Yeah.
That's the
I
clock.
don't know, man. I want to say like Antrell Roll, but I know he didn't play. No. Oh, no, that's no.
This
No.
is wonderful watching Kyle's
Yep.
brain work. This is
Baker.
good.
I got nothing.
All
I
right.
think I'm tapped.
Greg.
Robert Royal.
There
Robert
it
Royal
is.
was the other tight
Fucking
end. so-
Robert Royal. I used to play with him in Madden. So good in Madden.
He was
I
going
thought
to
you were
change
say in
everything.
high
Okay,
school.
now let's feel stupid when you bring up
No,
the other arts that we should have thought
You
of.
got most of the big ones. We got Bakari Rambo,
That's a good one.
Xavier Rhodes, Chad
Oh,
Reinhardt,
yeah.
Jim Richter,
Jim
Andre,
Richter is a big one.
yeah, Andre Roberts, Nicole Roby, Eddie Robinson, Justin Rogers,
Oh,
Sam
wasn't
Rogers.
it Nicole Roby Coleman?
Yeah.
So that'll work for when we do C's. Remember that
No,
because
I
that'll
won't.
count. Roby Coleman.
And the big one is the one currently on the team. Greg, did you figure it out?
No.
Gregory Rousseau.
Oh yeah. Group.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's it. We're done talking.
Yeah, but
this was fun.
that's
We
our
did good.
episode. So you had fun. You were grumbling, and then you start sitting there. Our
No,
players.
Rumbling and
the last Patreon we did, I was in a very bad mood.
Sure.
So
Yes.
if you want to hear
You seem to
me,
be in the exact same mood.
well, it is the next day. I mean, not for people listening to this, but it is. I am doing a podcast the day after being in a terrible mood,
Yeah.
and you know how these podcasts make me feel. Oh, I was in a good mood. I enjoyed today's episode.
We Greg and I.
Oh,
Wait, what am I doing?
Thursday.
Greg and I are on a show at Helium Comedy Club on Thursday. If you want to come out and watch us riff about.
And if you're a Patreon member, stay. Normally we give free tickets to that. If it's not up by Tuesday, then we won't. But normally we do.
Yeah.
So check that out on the Patreon, and leave us a review on any podcast service you use. Follow us on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, and of course our email is inthehuntcast@gmail.com. And we'll see you next month for our draft preview episode with GOB.
Sweet O, everyone.
Ooh, Greg, odds ain't gonna get easier. Ooh, Kyle couldn't have been righter. Ooh, Sean, tell us bills will get better. Ooh, guys think should be fine now. Someday, yeah, we'll get it together and we'll win that ball. Hopefully before your blue cheese expires. Someday, yeah, we'll have a parade 4 feet of snow. Someday when you're old and retired.